Hello everybody out there in the Frontline universe. I'm Chris, he's Mike, and you are back here with us once again for another episode of the Dark Avenger Comic Book Review. This episode, though, is going to have a bit of a twist to it, but we'll get to that as soon as we find out. Hey Mike.
Yes.
The books in this episode, when were they released?
They were released on February 1st, 2017, the first week
of February. Now, we are already in the second week of February. We were very busy last week. I had gone away on a trip for a bit. Things were a bit crazy at the beginning of the week. Things were crazy at the end of the week. So, because of that, this review is really late. We are recording this on Saturday. It will be up on Sunday, a week later. We are already in the middle of the second week of February's books. So, what we're going to do with this episode, we're going to put a little bit of a twist to it. Because it's really late, just so that, you know, we don't end up stretching the time out. Now, there weren't that many books that were released this week, so it was a pretty light week. And a lot of very good books. I don't think there were really that many bad books. What we're going to do is we are going to try to make a record, meaning we're going to try to review the books a bit faster, and we're going to do a Dark Avenger comic book review record. We are going to try to get this review done in 15 minutes or less.
Yes.
So this will be a first time ever that we have a stack of books, not just a few books, and we're going to try to make this review only about 15 minutes. So this way, you know, we know these books came out last week. We know you guys are already in this week's books. Heck, we're already in this week's books. So we're going to try to give you guys last week's books. So we're still, you know, we keep going. That's one thing the Dark Avenger comic book review is. We've always covered every single week. So we're going to cover last week's books, which was the first week of February.
Which I said.
In under 15 minutes. And obviously, the first 2 minutes don't count, so we're going to wait till that clock says 2 minutes, and then we're going to go. So we officially have 17 minutes if we do go over 15, just saying, in case. But, and, one, go.
Okay, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, issue number 5. This book, just talking about the new case, they're going after the Sunny Rose guitar. The guitar is being the strong force that's taking over all over the land. So now Jack, along with the Emperor, will be teaming up with the female Snake Plissken and the others to find out the case of the guitar and find out the true power source if they could get through that.
Cool.
So that's going to be really interesting. That I'm going to be looking forward to reading. Ghostbusters Annual 2017. Now, this was the annual that's setting up for the Ghostbusters
101.
Thank you, 101. I almost forgot the title. That's going to be coming out in March 2017. So really briefly, just had a lot of stories where it was talking about the origin of Slimer. It had a Chicago Ghostbusters in it as well. We get a little bit of Winston's story about when he was in the courthouse that took place with the Scaleri brothers, but it was the Scaleri ladies' time. And this book I also review on Comic Frontline as well, so you can find out a lot more stuff that I said on Comic Frontline, which is right here actually.
Right.
Of my full review on that book as well. I'm actually didn't expect this. The Spirit the Corpse Makers, issue number 1. Now this one was a little bit like it's the next volume of the book, but I felt like it was just a little bit all over the place. It was just really about this new case that the Spirit was looking into. I forgot that kid's name. Ebb, I think his name was. He found out his cousin was in town. And we find out that his cousin's actually on a side mission with the Mafia, where he went to jail for this guy that he was in for 2 years, and he just got out of prison. So they're going on this next mission where he actually went into this abandoned church or something at the end of the issue. So it's now going to be up to the Spirit to find out how and why this case is going to be all chaotic before it gets more chaotic, if that makes sense. Flash Gordon King's Cross, issue number 4. This is where King Valiant made his debut in the last issue, but now, I can't remember his name, Yo Ming?
If you can't remember the name, just...
Well, anyway, basically, he's now taking control of Flash Gordon's team, and he's making it all public around the Earth, saying that he's going to be the new leader. Everyone has to vote for him to be the ruler of Earth. So now it's up to Flash Gordon to prevent all this from happening around the world, because now humans are turning into animals based on the Emperor, so that way they will vote for him, so that way he will turn them back into humans. So this is like an election thing that's going on. Okay. So this is going to be something that's going to be really huge of that issue. Fate issue number 8. This one, I believe, if I'm not saying this correctly, I think this is where Faith is looking into seeing ghosts. so to say. Like, she's getting connected to these little entities that are coming onto Earth. And she has this new villain that it was this woman that she met like issues back or volumes or whatever. But the funny part is that when she was looking for a role, guess who she meets up in the end? You know, Chris Criswell from the A&A comic book?
Yeah, Archer Armstrong.
Yeah. She actually meets up with him. And what Chris doesn't know is that she was actually the rival of Faith. So Faith finds out that he's talking to her. Oh boy, things are going to hit the fan. And very quickly, too. Wow. So that's the real twist to this comic book. Spearhunters issue number 5 of 12. A new case of now what's going on with the Spearhunters, where it actually focuses on the woman who could see ghosts. She actually could see the past of, you know, who murdered somebody in this museum, I think it was, that they found this in. So she's going through like this whole trip of that. And I don't know if the guy's name is Michael. He actually had a backstory about how his wife went through this whole thing. So you get a little bit of that at the end of the story. But the way she just found out, just 1, 2, 3 like that, pure genius there. Day of the Dead issue number 1. A new story from Zenescope where it talks about her origin story, about how regular teenager gets into the curse of going into the graveyard because of the way her life was in a depressing way. And then she just goes around and just takes souls away, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you could actually read more about this as an origin story. So this was actually something I was looking forward to reading, actually.
Okay.
Red Agent, the Human Order, issue number 3. Now, there is a death in this comic book of the robot person. I can't remember his name right now because there were too many books I read, too many names to remember.
And it was last week that you probably read.
But what they're going after is this octopus creature who's taking over all of Atlantic. So they go to Atlantic to actually fight off...
right?
No, Atlantic.
Oh, Atlantic.
No, it is Atlantic. Where they fight off against this octopus woman creature. They do that. But then there was one death that happened in this book, like I said before. So this is going to actually be a really huge toll on them because he was really close to their hearts and everything. Van Helsing versus Frankenstein, the conclusion issue of issue 5 of 5, where Van Helsing finally gets her hands on Frankenstein and tries to either take him out or try to bring him back to normal, even though he can't go back to normal because of the way he is. So the fight seems like really brutal, and Hades actually makes an appearance in this comic book. And Angelica teams up with Van Helsing to help with Frankenstein because she actually helped Van Helsing bring her back to life and everything. So it was a really huge fight scene, and the way it just ended, man, it was really something else. And actually Van Helsing versus the Mummy thing is the first issue, I think, is this week. So I can't wait to actually look into that comic book. The Walking Dead issue number 163 of Conquered. This is just basically just talking about the walkers, and I really think that Negan's actually turning for the better because he's actually more helping with Rick's team. But it's just them trying to get rid of the walkers because there's thousands and thousands of them that they have to try to drive away or anything. And Rick is like really being the true leader along with Negan, who is I mean, just look at this. This is just right here in front of their community. So they're going to try to take them all out and away. And it looks like that somebody else is actually having the eye on Rick's team to actually...
They might be moving soon then. Because they've been in the same place too long, in my opinion.
Exactly. So that might be for that. So let me take a breather. It's your turn.
Finally back. Invincible issue 132. Back to Mark and Eve fighting against Tharg and his 2 kids. It's in this issue that they finally figure out that they can't run away from who they are anymore. They can't run away from fighting because they ran away. Tharg showed up and tried to kill them. In the end, he does end up killing Oliver because Oliver does interfere, which we all knew was going to happen, to try to save them. And in the end, Mark kind of... I love how Tharg is like, you're a hero. You'd never do anything wrong. And then Mark's like, you know what? Being a hero is bullshit. And he actually... Spoiler, ends up killing one of the 2 offspring of Tharg, and he kind of loses his mind. It looks like Eve and Mark are both dead, and then apparently Eve has some type of a power where if she's in a really bad state, like near death, she can heal everything. So she basically undoes what happened to Mark and herself. So basically she gets her leg back that she lost a long time ago. Mark gets put back together and they're stronger now apparently. And they kind of finally figure out that they're just going to have to fight. And Tharg has a whole army now, which they now know about. Tharg thinks he's killed Mark and Eve and left the daughter for dead. So now it's up to them to get back to Earth and find a way to fight the Voltramite army that now Tharg has re-brought with all of his children. Plus, you've got Robot that's still an issue. And Oliver, unfortunately, did not survive the encounter. Oliver's gone. Like, Eve couldn't heal him. Champions, issue number 5. Did not really dig this issue because of the cover. Gwenpool tries to join the team. There's another mission. Gwenpool gets in the way. She's annoying. And not saying it brings down the book because the team themselves don't like Gwenpool. They kind of get annoyed with her as well. And they're on this mission to try to figure out there's something going on in the town. And basically, she doesn't make the situation any easier. So in the end, it lost me as well as the team lost them. The team was annoyed with Gwenpool. I was annoyed with Gwenpool. It made for a story. Nova issue number 3. Richard Rider. We find out a lot about Richard Rider in this issue. We find out that he actually there's something with Richard Rider. Cosmo shows up because you got these bounty hunters who are trying to kill or at least take the helmets of both Richard and Sam. They just want their helmets, their Nova helmets, to claim bounty, and maybe they'll let them live. They try to fight them. Things don't work out the first time. Then they find out that there's a bomb inside of nowhere. Sam goes to try to stop the bomb. Richard stays behind to fight the bounty hunters. And we find out that there's some, like I said, there's something more to Richard. Like, I forgot, one of them said, "Oh, you should have stayed dead." He's like, I never said I was alive. You shouldn't be back alive. He's like, "I never said I was." And then you see that there's still something. There's something connected with Richard Rider. We don't know what it is. Maybe he's the living dead or something. Somehow he came back, but he's not 100% alive. And after a confrontation, this kind of was more of a transition. Next issue is going to involve Gamora. I'm really excited for that. This was a really fun issue, and the mystery of Richard Rider continues. Darth Maul issue number 1. I love this issue. This sets up before Star Wars Episode 1, where Darth Maul is still a disciple, obviously, of Sidious, Lord Sidious. And what's happening is he's so angry and he's so attuned to the dark side that he is almost like Darth Sidious can't control him. It's like, as much as he wants to, it's like he has a very deep bloodlust, Darth Maul. And he keeps trying to push his limits being around a Jedi to try to see how close he can get, and it's starting to really bother Sidious because this is way back before he attacked, he went after the Jedi, and now he sends him off on these like almost suicidal missions in order to, try to quench his thirst, and it doesn't really work. And then we find out that he ends up going after a child that's a Jedi. And I think he's looking to make this child his disciple without Lord Sidious knowing. To be continued. Very interesting. Star Wars issue number 20.
28.
28. I'm really enjoying this Yoda story. It turns out the mountain has a lot more than meets the eye. Yoda actually takes on one of the kids to kind of trade. He goes up the mountain, obviously, and things go wrong. But then he's saved by this kid. And the child teaches him how to work the stone. Basically, he becomes the child's student in order to learn about these stones that apparently he can't use the Force on, or not without concentrating deeply. And then we find out that the mountain might actually be more than just a mountain. To be continued.
Okay.
And I'll be right back.
Fall and Rise of Captain Atom, issue number 2. So just to keep this brief, this comic book was actually about where Captain Atom, he basically goes into this thing where they say that Captain Atom didn't exist in the future. So what he's trying to do is that they're trying to do like a little time paradox about how he does exist in the future, about how he joined the Justice League, and all that other stuff. I mean, it was a little bit all over the place with time traveling, but that's really the gist I could get about this issue. But now he's into the future where Captain Atom doesn't exist. So, also with his wife that he said that he was going to be with and everything, now things actually went into the other direction. So, that's for that comic book. So, we'll see what happens next time. Deadpool issue number 26. Now, this is a Valentine's Day cover because all that this comic talks about is just Deadpool trying to get back at Madcap for all this controlling-wise thing that's going on with him. So it's just a little bit of a thing between that he finds out, you know, that everything that Madcap did was all in his head, so his family will be alright. But now, they're on to this now new thing where, I can't remember that woman's name. She's in this along with this other guy who's going to be joining now. And we're going to be seeing what's going to happen in that comic book. So,
Spider-Man 2099 issue number 20. I don't know. I'm starting to lose it now. Apparently, somehow, Miguel's father has found a way to travel through time. And he tells Miguel's girlfriend the whole truth about, you know, him and Miguel. And that he's trying to, basically, we know he's lying, but he's trying to make up or try to get his son back in his favor. Apparently, he sends this guy to keep Miguel busy so he can't get back to Tempest because Miguel finds out about his father being there, Mike Stone being there, and he's trying to get to Tempest before his father takes her, and in the end, he kind of offers her something in order to get her to walk again, and because he's told her everything, she kind of is convinced to go with him, and in the end, kind of, Miguel gets left in the cold, so to speak. After this story arc, especially because we're going to be getting Scarlet Spider. Now, this was physical. Normally, I'm supposed to get this digitally. I guess I made a mistake for this month and got it physically. But normally, I get that digitally. It's going to stay in a digital pile, but I don't know if I'll be reviewing it so in-depthly or not anymore. It might get an honorable shout-out, especially with Scarlet Spider coming soon. I will be getting that physically because I do love Ben Reilly. So,
Midnight and Apollo, issue number 5 of 6. One more issue left until we conclude.
And we've already gone over our time.
Oh, wow.
We tried. Right,
well, anyway,
we'll try to still continue. We'll try to make it to 20.
Well,
because we hit 17 now.
Yeah, so basically, it's just Midnighter who's going up against, what?
Huh? Go again.
Oh, that's going up against the person who is, and I saw you. No, that's you. That's going up against the guy that's been holding, Apollo captive. So they fight off against each other. The fight's brutal. I wanted to show a page that's not really that bloody. So Midnighter actually takes the full sacrifice, but now it's up to Apollo to actually try to fix all this and
in the last
see
issue.
What happens in the last issue. So that's really something else. I mean, I'm really liking this issue. It's really a great story that they have between those two.
Green Lantern's issue number 16. They join Batman because there's something going on in Gotham, and Batman suspects the Sinestro Corps, so he wants to enlist the Green Lanterns to help him. And I love how Simon's like, this is Scarecrow, this isn't the Sinestro Corps. And then they get into a fight for 4 pages about why Simon Boz carries a gun around, because we all know Batman doesn't like guns. And then we find out there is a Sinestro Corps connected to it. We find out that there's some type of a computer virus that's infecting people, making them want to kill Batman or fear Batman or whatever. And then, spoiler alert, but not really, we find out that Scarecrow actually is, without a Sinestro Corps ring, trying to be the way he was like when he had the Sinestro Corps ring. We all knew that Scarecrow was really obsessed with being a Sinestro Corps member and wanting that ring back so badly. So it was an interesting issue. It's going to be interesting to see where the story arc goes. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Cyborg issue number 9. So in Cyborg, Vic is actually fighting off against the Anomaly, who is the clone of his father in the robot form. And it's just like really, Exy tries to help him out a little bit because Vic got a little bit blind because of what happened. So he's actually like his way of like saying, hit him with the left, the right, and all that other stuff. So they actually work great as a team together. And now they have to go back into lab to try to save Varian because they had to leave. Because the real mission here is for Vic to save Valiant from the laboratory so she doesn't get anything of a worse experiment.
Oh joy, Bane is coming again. Batman...
Is he back to break him?
Bane, basically.
Oh,
Bane
no.
already is starting to attempt to get Psycho Pirate back. He makes an attempt right at the beginning of the book. And we kind of see that in the very beginning where he's trying to send, he sends kind of his own disciple kind of in to save, to bring Psycho Pirate back to him. And Batman goes to, I love how he goes to like this burger place to talk to the Robins, or his Robins and Nightwing, because, you know, they don't want to meet at the Batcave. They want to meet at a place and have like a social kind of thing. And they think they're there to kind of plan around with Batman about Bane. And what he wants is basically all of them to leave Gotham for the next 5 days, because it's going to take 5 days, 5 treatments from Psycho Pirate to fix Gotham Girl. He wants them to stay away for 5 days and let him handle it himself. One thing I don't like is all the Robins are like, yeah, we're not going to listen. And then you have Duke who's like, you know what? You don't ignore Batman. I'm not a Robin and I'm not dying, so I'm going to do what Batman says, and I'm going to take a vacation. Because basically they were talking about how Tim died, now all the Robins died at least once. And he's like, I'm listening to Batman, goodbye. And then Catwoman offers her help. Batman says, I'm not going to help. But she's like, you know what? And yet. And he goes, and yet. So they start Gotham Girl on a treatment. Like, they're taking her to the cave to set her to take her for her first night of treatment. And we get a cliffhanger that we all know is not going to be legit, because it looks like Nightwing, Robin, and Red Hood are hanging in the Batcave. And we all know that that's not... that's not really them. So the story arc's off to an interesting start. I really don't like Duke. The character Duke himself. I like how Dick said, I mean, we've already gone over our time, so I can say a little bit more than I wanted to. I like how Dick said, smart kid, that, you know, Duke is listening to Batman, but at the same time, I don't like him because the way he did it, it's like, nope, I'm listening to Batman, screw you guys, I'm not dying. I can't invest in Duke for some reason. Even before that, I'm not involved. He's not a Robin. He's not a Nightwing. He's something else. And we don't know what that something else is. He doesn't have a nickname except his own name, which is Duke. And it's like there's that, it fits in the puzzle, but there's a little bit of like a warped piece to it. It just isn't fitting right. And that's why I'm just not invested in Duke as much as I don't know if everybody, how you guys feel about Duke, let me know in the comments below. But personally, he's not fitting in. He was great as Robin. We Are Robin, he worked great. But as this new thing, this new entity, it's not clicking anymore. Maybe he needs to go back to We Are Robin. I don't know, but he's not clicking as whatever he is now.
Death of Hawkman, issue number 5 of 6. This is also one more issue left until we conclude that story.
Yeah, all the minis are concluding next month.
That's right. And now it's really where both of them are going up against... they're going like to Dagger's Moon. Yeah. And actually the Green Lantern of Rand and Aishmet actually help out with this thing that's going on. Whereas Lord Desparo, I think that's what his name is. Desparo. Like, he makes like more of an appearance in this. So I think that the next issue is going to be where both of them are going to have to fight him, because he's just made his way into like the city where he's
they say Despero, you know. Ooh, yeah. Hawkman gets a Green Lantern.
Yeah, and Hawkman gets a Green Lantern outfit, so I thought that was actually really cool. So, yeah, just things are just going to be really something else, and everyone's just acting weird because Lord Despero is just saying that with the 9th metal he has, he can control people, what they can say or do. So, the next issue of the conclusion issue, I can't wait to see how it's going to all unfold in the next issue of that.
Justice League issue number 14. I really enjoyed this issue because the Justice League kind of gets their butts handed to them really easy or really early in this fight. Like, you don't even see what they're fighting at first. Like, you see it, but you see them get thrown like into like a crater. Like, they're shot into the city's shot and it makes this huge crater and they're trapped inside. One thing I don't like is now apparently, if Clark is cut off completely from sunlight underground, he loses his powers. That makes no sense. Or maybe it was the beam accompanied by there not being sunlight right after. I don't know. But they end up getting trapped, and they end up having this huge talk about how, you know, Jessica doesn't feel like she belongs. Superman is kind of like, I love how Aquaman's like, let's talk about the big red and blue elephant in the room, and he's like, I think he's talking about me and how they don't trust him. And then Aquaman kind of comes out and says, you know, Batman, the only reason he put you on this team is because he didn't trust you and he wanted to keep you close. And then I love how Clark's like, my Batman had a contingency plan for all the members of the Justice League. And then Aquaman casually turns to Batman. He's like, do you? And he's like, yes. And all of a sudden, everything turns on Batman. And it's true. He, you know, and I love how Wonder Woman turns to Superman, and she's like, "Are you okay with this?" And he's like, "You know, when it first happened on my world a long time ago, no. But then it started to feel reassuring that if I ever went crazy, he'd be able to do what he needed to stop me." And then he starts talking about the JLA a little bit, you know, from his Earth, and how things were the same but different, and how they had to stop talking about him being a different Superman, that him and the Superman from the New 52 are basically the same person. They live the same life, except for minor differences, which is this being our Superman pre-New 52. And I love how they kind of just all start to click and say, we got to stop acting like a group and start acting like a league. And they break free, and they're like, let's go kick some ass, and they kind of make up a plan. And I guess that's where the story is left off. And then next we get into the next story. So it was more of a segue issue. I enjoyed it because it kind of, all the rifts in the Justice League are now kind of broken, and they act more like it says, like a league, more like a team.
Green Arrow issue number 16, the continuation of Emerald Outlaw, and I did review this on Comic Frontline, so I'm just going to give a little bit of a brief.
No, we're not going to be able to do this in under 30 minutes.
Well, it's 5 parts. So basically, Amico reunites with Green Arrow. They're trying to find out of Nomad, who is with the Vice Squad. So all this happens in the issue where they do that. And then we get a little bit of just Amico about where she's been and everything. And then we get where Green Arrow admits to Westberg that he is Oliver Queen. Here's some artwork, which is drawn really awesome. And for Chief Westberg, let's just say he gets the arrow to the head. Not a boot to the head, an arrow to the head. So that's going to actually lead into the Dark Archer, who is still lurking around. So
we might.
That's going to be really something else.
I'm going to try to make it before 30. Nightwing issue 14, the last part of the first story arc in Bloodhaven. Nightwing versus Mr. Nice, and we find out that Sally, the billboard woman, who is working with the mayor, is the one that's actually behind Mr. Nice's reign. She kind of tells him about all the dirty stuff that's going on, and you get basically his whole plan was to get the runaways, not the runaways, the people that were in his group, the runoffs, he brought them together to basically send them back to jail because he believes he did something wrong. He got away with it, and everybody else should be punished because of it. And I love how he tells everybody, look at yourself in the mirror. And he's like, and Dick finally figures out, you know what? It's not me that needs to look in the mirror. It's you who needs to look in the mirror because he's seeing all these monsters. He's like, you need to look at yourself because the real monster here is you. And the police officer, the woman detective, I hate her already, her personality, because she's like, you know what, you do all the dirty work, I'm getting paid to just stand here and do nothing, while you and Defacer, they team up to find Mr. Nice and figure out where he's going. You guys do all the dirty work, and they do, and the detective gets all the credit, of course. And Nightwing's like, I was going to leave, but you know what, I think I might stick around after all. What's her name ends up leaving because she's still a suspect in the murder. Defacer ends up leaving for a time, and Dick's like, we'll get you back as soon as we can. And then they do the same thing they did in the first issue, where it's like him telling her he's Nightwing and I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and he's like, well, in reality all I said was this. And then Defacer kind of turns around and says, I know you're Nightwing, I'm not stupid. And in the end Nightwing decides to stay. However, it looks like there's somebody else who's a part of Bloodhaven already, and that raises a lot of questions. It's called the Red Menace, but it looks like Nightwing's old costume, but Nightwing with long hair. Question mark, question mark. I'm very interested. Superman issue number 16. I love this issue because Superman gets taken, and at the very beginning of the issue, we get the question that's going to obviously lead us into Superman Reborn, and that's when this entity ends up draining him of his power. What he calls Superman is, "You say you're Superman. You possess you possess the power I need, and you may indeed look like one, but according to my data, you are nothing more but an anomaly." So that's going to be very interesting, and we find out that Superman had a plan all along. Unfortunately, it involves the death of one of the Flashes that works with the Justice League police of the multiverse, so to speak. Oh, I made it to 30. Oh, well. And he rebuilds the ship that the entity just destroyed. They find Superman finally, because now Superman left a tracker on the ship that was abducted into this place that the Justice League for the multiverse couldn't find. They show up, they kick the guy's ass, he disappears, and we find out in the end that it's Oz, Mr. Oz, that ends up imprisoning him. So he collected Doomsday, he collected Tim, he collected another guy, and now he has this guy. And it's going to be very interesting to see where things go. And we also get the first meeting of, there was a lot of Keenan meeting up with Superman, and they kind of started to get along. And obviously this will lead into all new Superman, which I'll probably review that story arc because it looks interesting, where he meets up with Superman and they kind of have their own fun times. But this is a really great setup for Superman Reborn, which I believe is coming very soon. The question is, an anomaly, huh? So we went 31 minutes. We went double the time we wanted to. I'm sorry, guys.
15
we
and
tried.
15:30. Two brothers, 2 15s.
Yeah, we tried our best, but at least it is condensed. Technically, we usually go an hour.
So
it is half. So we hope you enjoyed this comic review, guys. As always, we love hearing from you guys, so feel free to comment below your thoughts on any of the books we talked about here, even though they're a week late. Likes, dislikes, agree, disagree. As always, we are Comic Frontline, your #1 source for comic-related news, reviews, and a whole bunch more. We have videos coming up each and every day, so if you haven't subscribed to Comic Frontline yet, you might want to consider that. This way we're in your sub box, and you do not miss out on a single video.
We've been here for 3 years.
That's right. We are now, this week, today, Bram put up our 3-year anniversary. That's right. We are celebrating 3 years on YouTube now. And if you want even more Comic Frontline goodness, go check out Comic Frontline. Very good.
ComicFrontline.com.
That's what I wanted to say. ComicFrontline.com for more of that. You can also check out Frontline, Gaming Zone, What the Card. Lots of great stuff going on there as well. Till next time, everybody, take care. Keep reading, keep collecting, and we'll see you guys really soon in the next video.
Everybody.